Welcome, everybody. Bienvenidos a todos. Good evening. I'm Abelardo de la Peña Jr., Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, welcoming you to tonight's edition of En Casa con La Plaza, special edition Happy Hour with Dan Guerrero. This is our weekly, three-time weekly series of conversations, presentations, demonstrations, and performances from our homes to yours. So if you're on Zoom, you could chat with us, just click on the chat, or if you have a question, click on Q&A. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, you can comment, wave, ask a question, and I'll pass it on to our host, Dan Guerrero. If you're on Facebook, you could start a watch party, get it going. This is a fun time. We hope you have your drink. I have mine. But before I pass it on to Dan, thank you to our sponsors, SoCal Gas, CalHum, California Humanities, a brand new sponsor to this program. So with this, I hand it over to Dan Guerrero. Let's have a great time tonight. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Wow. So you rattled off how to get on Zoom and how to get on Facebook and how to get on this. And what you didn't mention is you can knock on my door here in West Hollywood and you can come right in and you can have a drink with me too. We aim to please at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Thanks for being here with me and sharing a drink with my media mogul friend, Bel Hernandez, dubbed the Godmother of Latino Hollywood. Her Latin Heat entertainment publication has been a Bible for all Latinos in Hollywood since 1992. Now that is a long time, which means she knows where all the bodies are buried. She might have buried a couple, I don't know, I'm just saying. So let's find out. She might spill the frijoles tonight, so zoom on in, Bel. Zoom in, Bel.
Here we go. Hi,
hey,
everybody.
How are you?
Oh, salud.
Salud, mija. Ah, look at it. We got dueling martinis.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a vodka martini or is
yes, I like gin too, but
really?
I mostly drink vodka.
I did gin, I think once in my 20s. I had a headache for about 3 years. So I never did it again. So I'm strictly Grey Goose martini. I'm happy as a clam. You look beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I had to get dressed up for you.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. How are you faring through? Hollywood, of course, has rolled up the red carpet, as has, I was going to say the country, but the world. How are you faring at home and dealing with all this?
We're doing fantastic. I mean, I am busier than when I was not in shelter. Things have just started like coming up, you know, thank God for Zoom. Everybody's Zooming everywhere. Right. I spoke to our friend, Luisa Lechin. We did an interview with her and she said she's never been busier. She has 4 shows that she's working on. I think people, once you get into the rhythm, you know, you start getting busy. So yeah, we've been fine. My husband is at home, so he's no difference to him, but I'm usually out and about.
Right.
So the only difference is that I'm here bugging him. That's all.
So not to diminish the terribleness of this whole thing, you're right. I also am busier. In fact, I have a project with Luisa. So we've been pitching Zoom. I think even though TV and film, they're not in production, they want to be ready to hit the ground running the day they figure out, okay, now if we do this and then we put you know, how they're going to do it, I have no idea. It's still complicated. But yeah, everybody I know, writers, directors, Zoom, who knew? I wish I had stock in Zoom.
Exactly.
We're going to talk all about Latin Heat Entertainment, which is such a fabulous success story, and not to mush, but really you are one of the most beloved people in Hollywood. People love you, not only because you're really a wonderful person, but for what you've done for Hollywood through Latin Heat and through all your other things. So I wanted to get the mush out of the way first, and then we're going to chat. So we're going to talk all about that. But first, I want to start at the very beginning, and I mean the very beginning. And it's actually a question for you. Were you really born on a riverbank in Zacatecas?
Yes, I was. That is like my favorite story for my mom, because I was due to be born and she knew she only had a specific time to get to the midwife. We're talking about the rancho, okay, the hills and the valleys. And so she started out and she didn't make it to the midwife. And she knew she had already had 3 kids before, so she knew it was time. So it was by the riverbed. She said she hung on to a branch, and she just had me.
Solita, all by
And then
yourself.
she tells me I had to measure the umbilical cord 4 fingers wide. I took a rock, cut the umbilical cord, tied it, and threw me into her rebozo. And then she couldn't walk, so somebody passed by and she said, "Can you get my grandfather?" My grandfather came. He put me in he had overalls, so he put me inside the overalls, and they walked home. I mean, that's a tough woman. My mom was a tough woman. She got
That
things done.
is a strong, strong lady. Wow, that's a scene in a movie. That's better when Jennifer swims across the river in Mi Familia, remember?
That's better. That's a better scene.
Yours is better. We should call Greg Nava, tell him to do a retake. How old were you when you came to the U.S.?
6 years old.
6. We have a picture of your mom and your siblings. Abelardo, can we see that? She's a beautiful woman, and you look like her.
She was so beautiful and gorgeous, and she living in Mexico, it was such a horrible life. But she pulled in there, brought the 4 of us from Mexico. Like, we lived 1 year until the papers were ready. And then she brought us over here. And then that's my little brother in the middle. And then there was another little brother who came after that. So there was 6 in all.
Wow, 6 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was this picture, is that, Abelardo, we can't just do the photo without all that because it's so small and blurred.
Yeah.
We did it with Nick. We did it with Nick. Well,
it was a small photo. That's the best we could do.
Okay. So your mother had 6 kids.
Mm-hmm.
We can move on from the photo. Thank you. So she was a strong lady, and I know you co-authored a book back in 2012, 8 Ways to Say I Love My Life.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, you talk about that moment. And at that moment, your eyes locked into your mom's, and I believe these kinds of things. And you connected, and you really learned a lesson that you had to be resilient and tough to survive. Yeah.
And I am resilient, and sometimes that gets on people's nerves because they say I'm tough. I'm too tough. But I admire my mom so much for what she did, because so many people come from Mexico and they have a family and they start a new family and they forget. She was there. She brought us over here. She worked 3 jobs. She was always there for us, and so tough. I mean, she was 90 years old. She was still driving her truck. She was taking English classes until she was 89. She used to go to adult school, and she was driving around in her truck. She had a truck. So, I mean, I want to be my mom when I get to be that old, because she was amazing.
2 things. First of all, what was your mom's name?
Amalia Miramontes, Hernandez Miramontes.
Being tough, as you say, it's different. It's a different journey. I mean, if you learn to be tough, that's one thing for a man. But for a woman, that's a completely different dynamic. How was it building this empire that you've built as a woman? Did you feel, tell me
you feel, I was just so exuberant about Latin Heat and what we were doing, because it was covering Latinos in Hollywood when no one wanted to cover Latinos in Hollywood. As a matter of fact, they told us there were no talented Latinos. That's why they didn't cast one in Frida, which was the genesis of how we got to do a newsletter and all. But later on, years later, I was thinking about, this guy was telling me about how he was at a Starbucks, and this guy came and they started talking, and he said, I'm doing this business. He go, "Oh, come to my house." And then, long story short, the guy was a millionaire, because he offered to get him coffee. But the guy goes, "I don't need coffee." But anyway, they started talking. They went to his house. He was a millionaire, and he says, what are you doing? And he funded what he was doing. And I'm thinking, this would never happen with a woman. If it was a woman, hey, if you went up and you said, "Hi, I'll buy you coffee," to the guy, he'd say, "Okay, well, she likes me, and I can take advantage of her. We would never go to their house because it totally has a different meaning to them if we were to drive up to their house. So, you know, just things like that, how the inequity between being a woman and being a man, which always, you know, kind of like puts you at a disadvantage if you let it, you know, but if you don't let it, you just keep doing what you do. And that's one of the things that I do is I just do what I do. And there has been people who in the process have said, well, who do you think you are to do this? And I'm like, I can do it. I want to do it, so I'll do it. You know, so I've never been someone that is going to get intimidated by someone, some other person telling me that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing, or why am I doing what I'm doing? So I guess that comes from my mom.
But did you find, like, in going to meetings and going, you know, especially when you're trying to get funding for Latin Heat and all that, do you feel that they were more hesitant because you were a woman as opposed to a man, and afraid you would not be able to pull it off?
Yes, definitely. And also the fact that people would try to take advantage of the work that I was doing. In one point, they came in and swooped up something that I was doing, and they would assume that I was going to do things just because they say, you know, oh, Bel's going to give us this, but never bothered to talk to me. There's a gentleman that did that. So, you know, things like that. It's always different. You know, it's always the difference between the man and the woman doing, you know, the same thing, but it's harder. And luckily for me, I've had a lot of women who have mentored me, who have helped me, who have been there, you know, to help. And it's the women that were there surrounding us.
I want to talk about one. I'm glad you brought her up, and that's T.G. Wilkerson of the Hollywood Reporter, who's a fascinating lady. I knew her briefly. She was a fascinating lady. She was the publisher and editor of Hollywood Reporter, which at that time it was the Reporter and Variety. That was the two Bibles. And
actually, I looked up to T.G. Wilkerson because I knew who she was, and I'm like, she was an inspiration to me. So definitely. And you're right. It was Hollywood Reporter or Variety. And that was the game. No. And at that point in 1992, you hardly ever saw Latinos in those trades. Hardly ever. Now you do, because there's stars that have been developed and people who've become stars. And so, of course, when you have a star, you want to cover them, because then you cover their movies, and then you get advertising for the movie. You know, it's all money. You know, it's a business.
Of course. And it becomes a game. Well, okay, I'll give you, you know, Sharon Stone if you do this actor for it. It's
exactly the coverage.
It's the whole thing.
Yes.
I want to back up to T.G. Her life was fascinating. Her mother, because she was brought up in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. Her mother was the maid of the original publisher of the Hollywood Reporter.
Right, Wilkerson.
Yeah. And then eventually they married. I mean, that's a telenovela story we've seen 100 times on Univision, right?
Yep, they were doing her story, or a version of it.
And she started Women in Film.
Yes, she did.
Started Women in Film. Let's back up to your grandpa putting you in his jeans, because I'm guessing at that moment you must have felt very Mexicana, because the first thing you did long before Latin Heat, which we're going to come back to, you were a folklorico dancer. And we have a photo of that too.
I think the pictures were bigger than that, but
they are.
Yeah, I think they were, because I remember the resolution was major big with this one. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Look how gorgeous. This was in Mexico City, right?
Well, I used to belong to folklorico groups. I started doing folklorico in high school because it spoke to me. It was about Mexicans. And at that time there was nothing else. And that was what I did. So we were in groups here, and Miguel Delgado was a pal of mine, and my other friend Teresa. And so we were always, we had different opportunities to go on tour with a folklorico group, and it always fell through. So we would tell people, we're going on tour with this folklorico group. And then they'd say, what happened? Oh, it fell through. So this last time, it was the third time, same thing happened. There was a group here. They needed dancers. They were going to Europe. They said, you're on. And they even had a going away party for us. And then we didn't go. but we didn't want to, it didn't happen because the group went back to Mexico. So they said, why don't you come to Mexico? You'll have a job there. So we all packed up our bags and told our parents that we had a job when we really didn't have a job.
Are
And
you
so
are you a teenager there? How old are you there?
20, about 20. I'm
Baby,
just out of 2 years out of high school. And so we pack up, we take a 3-day ride to Mexico and then over to Acapulco. Of course, when we got there, they go, oh, there's no job. So then we went to take classes with Bel Hernandez, who is, that was the mecca of folklorico at Bellas Artes. And then we ran out of money and this job came up. The picture you saw was at Plaza Santa Cecilia in Garibaldi, where they have all the mariachi groups.
Sure.
So we worked there for like 2 years, 3 years.
You're kidding.
Oh yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
so you lived in Mexico City for 2 years. How fantastic.
Yes, and that's when I realized that I wasn't a Mexican, because to me, I was born in Mexico, so I was always saying, I'm Mexican. But when I got there, they would call me a pocha,
Sure.
because I was a pocha, you know? And so then I realized, oh, okay, I'm not really an American, I'm not really a Mexican, I'm a
That's
Chicana.
when the focal went on that we all.
I'm a Chicana, yes.
Yeah.
That's when the focal went up, yeah.
Yeah. And then eventually you became an actress, but I mean a real one. You co-starred opposite as the Christopher Reeves at the Amundsen.
I did, oh my God.
Did he know it?
Summer and Smoke.
Yeah.
I know it. Yes. Summer and Smoke. I actually, this is when that adage of always being prepared comes in, because but it also happened at in Zoot Suit, but for Summer and Smoke, which was about 3-4 years after Zoot Suit.
Oh, it was after.
I was
Zoot Suit.
Wenda, what's her last name? Wenda?
Castillo?
Wanda. Jimmy's girlfriend.
Oh, Wanda de Jesus.
There you go. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
brain fart. So I was her understudy, you know, never ever thinking that I would go on. And then she left the play. So I had to go on for like, I don't know, like 2 weeks. It was scary as heck. It was scary as heck.
But you did it.
Yeah,
You
and that's another thing is, for the Music Center, I've performed at every single theater. I performed at the Amundsen, the Dorothy Chandler, and Mark Taper. Mark Taper was Zoot Suit, and the Dorothy Chandler was in high school. Our folklorico group got to go as part of a whole performance of different schools around LA, and we went and we did our folklorico dance on the stages of the Amundsen, the Dorothy Chandler. So that was like amazing. For a little kid from Boyle Heights, I was like, wow.
Big time. You, let's talk about that original production of Zoot Suit. What a watershed moment. It's you know, Zoot Suit is such an odd animal because to many people, it's just legendary. They either saw it originally. I was living in New York, so I didn't see it until you were at the Aquarius.
Right.
And so some people saw it, and then the younger people have only heard about it because there'll be an occasional production, but there was never a national tour. To this day, there was never a real one. So
No.
when they did the revival at the Taper, what was that, 2-3 years ago?
4.
Oh, yeah.
Something
All right.
like that.
So 4 years ago, it was like epic. I mean, it was extended 3 times because it was like seeing a unicorn, you know?
Right.
And what was wonderful, it was such a different experience, which I have my thoughts in a second. But we have a photo because they got all of you together that opening night from the original cast members that still exist. Do we have
And
that?
the new cast members, original, and there you go.
Yeah.
Oh my God, look
It's
at that.
Eddie. And of course, you're not in the back. No, mija. Right there next to Eddie. You know where to
That's
sit.
right. Yes, oh my goodness.
Pepe Serna, our beautiful.
Danny Valdez, Kim Miori right
Danny.
next to him, and Rose Portillo, who actually was in the revival. She played the lead ingenue in the original, and then she played the mother. And then Sal Lopez and Julie Carmen, Pepe Serna next to Eddie.
Evelina peeking through.
Yes, and Laura Owens. And you know, some of the New York members that I don't know, and Milt Cummins, who was a stage manager. The Milt,
where?
next to Danny Valdez. That's Milt
Oh,
Conan.
oh, with the scarf.
And he just retired, I think, at age 89 from being a stage manager for the Music Center.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
Oh, and there's Phil. Phil was the producer,
Yeah,
so there he
Mars.
is.
Yeah.
It was
a great
amazing.
night. It was a
And
great
and
night.
that
Julie Carmen. I didn't know Julie Carmen was, isn't that Julie Carmen?
New York. She was in the New York.
Oh.
Yeah.
I saw it on Broadway. I saw it on Broadway.
You saw Julie Carmen then, because she was in New York.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this transition from a performer, folklorico and all that. How did you decide one day that you didn't need to be on the stage or out front, that there was something missing or a niche you needed to fill? What was there, a light bulb moment, or did it just gradually?
Actually, it wasn't that I decided. I had just, I was a working actress. I did looping, I did TV, I did film, and I had just done a possible recurring role on Beverly Hills 90210 as a teacher. So I was doing really well. But at about this time, Frida, the movie Frida was being made, right. And it was written by Luis Valdez, and it was produced by New Line Cinema, and they only saw like 2 Latinas, and they decided that there were no Latinas to play Frida, so they hired Laura San Giacomo.
Right.
Well, a lot of us actors, and it was the women who put it together, specifically the actress Diana Ortelli, and she announced to all of us, because we all, after Zoot Suit, we all used to still hang out together, and besides, at that point, the Latinos in Hollywood was a small group, so we all knew each other. Sure. So she said, I don't know about you guys, but I'm protesting. And we said, we're with you. So it was a result of the protest when they said that they cast Laura San Giacomo because there were no talented Latinos. That's why they didn't audition. So we all got mad, and that whole group that helped with putting the protest together was Yvonne Cole was there, and Isai was there. He didn't help, but he was there to support. So many of the people that are now, Carlos Carrasco was there, and we all decided we should do an industry newsletter. We should do a newsletter so that we can keep them abreast.
Oh.
And so we all pulled together. We all pulled some money together, and then Loida. Ramos and myself kind of took the lead in putting it all together and getting it out there, and that's how we started, by doing that. And then little by little, people as actors, they fell off. But for me, I was still acting, and more and more I got involved with the publication. And there's a lot to do. There's the articles, there's the research, there's the printing, there's the distribution. And so my agent would call me and say, you have an audition for a maid. And I'm like, really? And finally I kept saying, I don't want to go, because I felt so empowered doing the publication, as opposed to doing another reading for a maid where I have to have a big, thick accent and, si, senor, and all that stuff. And so little by little, I told my agent, I don't want to do this anymore. And he goes, no, Bel, no, don't go. He wouldn't let me go. He said, oh, you're so great. I go, why didn't you tell me that when I was around? I needed to hear how great I was. And so, Bobby Morones, you remember the casting director? Of course,
Bobby, sure.
He also told me, but Bel, why are you leaving? You're so good. And I'm like, really? I was such an insecure actress. I needed to land the role, or for people to say you were fantastic. Sure. But that doesn't happen. As a casting, as an agent, it's rough, right? But that was beside the point. I just didn't feel like, I felt like I was doing something good. I felt I was empowered with knowledge, with having access to people in the industry. Like, we would call Aaron Spelling and say, we'd like to do an interview with you because, you do Beverly Hills 90210, you have Latinos in there, and we think you should be lauded for that. So let us do an interview. So we would pick up the phone and call the agents and call the studios and call the networks, and we would get access. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And it was just wonderful to be able to highlight the talent that they said wasn't there. And little by little, we started, making inroads, and people got to know us. And that's how I decided that acting should take a seat.
I remember in 1992, and we have a photo of that, of the first Latin Heat. It was like a mimeograph sheet or something.
Yep.
Look, Loida and Bel. I forgot when you were Bel Sandre. I remember you as that. I forgot.
You know why we changed it? Because we wanted to appear like we could play anything. But, sooner or later they found out, oh, Bel Sandra, she's that Mexican. Okay, let's bring her in for the maid.
like Diana Ortelli changing her name because she didn't want to play Mexican maids. My God, she's still so Mexican. She's rivaled only by, I don't know, Montezuma. So
but look at that. It was Latin Beat. When we started, it was Latin Beat, and then there was already a music magazine, and they sent us copies of their magazine. It's like, stay away from our name. And we're like, okay. So we changed it to Latin Heat.
I remember going to some sort of a convention or conference that you did at Universal at the hotel, the Sheridan. That's
Yes.
when I don't know if that's when we first met or if I already knew you, but I was there.
Uh-huh.
What was it? Was that a conference?
It was a conference that we started doing in 1995, and it was a conference where we had panels about television, independent film, how to write. It was just an industry conference, and I got to give a big shout out to Julie Carmen, because I didn't know how to do a conference. We just had seen one being done, and we go like, why don't we have that for Latinos? And she guided us through, like, go to ABC, see this person, ask them for sponsorship, go here, ask for this spot. And she was the one that guided us through it. And it was Elia Esparza, who's been with me since 1994. Right. And she and I were the ones that put the conference together. We put all the panelists together. We put all the content together. We did a big luncheon. We invited Francis Ford Coppola because we were going to give him an award. He wasn't able to come, but he sent Sophia, and I'm like, Sophia, oh. And now she went out to be a director in her own right. Literally everyone in Hollywood, Latinos in Hollywood, was at that event, at the luncheon.
And that was the first time, the first one.
The very first one.
In 95.
No, 95, yeah, 95.
Wow, look how many years ago that was. And Latino Hollywood was still small.
It was small. It was very small.
And mostly actors. I mean, mostly actors. It's later that we started to get producers and more writers and more. We still need people in position where they can greenlight a project. That's what we're still sorely missing. Yeah. But wow. So you've seen like the entire arc, of starting really from an embryo to today, which we're still. Is not exactly time to break a piñata, but you can't say it's not better. I mean, it is better.
Yes, it is. It is better. I say that all the time. It is better, and it's interesting. It's the women that, to me, that are right now like leading the charge on television. They are like knocking it out of the park, with Tanya Sriracha and Gloria Calderon Khaled, and so many of writers like Luisa Lashin, who's working so much. And the women are really like in stride and strutting their stuff and doing so well.
Yeah.
And by the way, just that we're on that note, do you know there's like over 100 Latinos that are up for a nomination for an Emmy?
100?
Over 100.
Wow.
So just to position where we were, and where we are. So there is some progress.
And it is
not enough. But
we still complain. Why? I know I still watch TV. Takes place in LA today. Not one goddamn Latino. Where's the Latino? We all do it, but we have to celebrate how far we have come, because we certainly have. Yes, we certainly have, no question. Now you moved because Latin Heat looked kind of like the Hollywood Reporter. It was a beautiful, slick magazine, and then you went digital in when 05? Was it that long ago? 05?
Yeah, it was like 05. We went digital.
And now it's digital.
Actually, we had a presence on the internet since 1989, but we went digital in 2005, where the magazine was there. We stopped printing after 13 years of printing. We just couldn't afford it. A lot of the newspapers have gone out of print. And so, so we've been online since 2005. expressly there.
I called our friend and your right hand, Elia Esparza, because I said, how do you guys keep it up to date? I mean, how often do you, quote, publish online? And she was explaining how you update it every day or every couple of days. It's a very complicated thing. Can you talk us through it succinctly? How you keep it up to date?
Oh, well, technology is awesome. Nowadays you can go in the back office and actually nowadays journalists are asked many times to do their own uploading. So before you just, as a writer, you would send it in, and they would copy you. That was out of your hands. You did your job. Nowadays you have a writer and they write the story, and oh, can you take pictures? Oh, and if you have a video camera, just shoot a little quick interview, and then they go, okay, we like it. We did some changes. Can you upload it? So you go in the back office. It's content management system, and you have a password. You go in there and you just upload it. You put the photos in, and that's how you do it. So you have to upload articles every day if you want new content every day, and you really should have new content every day.
Oh, you have to, and you have thousands of subscribers. How do people subscribe if they want to subscribe?
Well, they subscribe on, there should be a subscription on Latin Heat that says subscribe to Latin Heat, or on our Facebook page. Yeah, on our Facebook page, we also have a way to subscribe. So also do Facebook and just subscribe to our newsletter.
Now,
Latinos are killing it in animation. That was the animation. And this is, well, Dolores, tonight, Dolores, the documentary, which came out last year, but it's so amazing. She's so amazing.
It's fantastic.
So it's worth a
Is this the one? I thought the one we had was one with that wonderful headline about chingonas in power. Wasn't that for the Latin Fest thing you did?
Yeah, there you go.
That's the one I mean. That's what I was.
This was our very last print issue that we did last year. And we did it for an event that we do called Latina Fest at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. And we wanted to give a look and a feel of where we were. So on the bottom, you have the black and white badges. I don't have to show you no sticky badges. And then from there, you see the films as they come out, like the very first one's El Norte and El Mariachi, and then it grows for where we are now, which On My Block and Coco and
Justina Machado.
One Day at a Time. So yeah, I still hadn't gotten the urge to print, because once you have a print magazine, it's like it's your child, and so I'm always trying to get another print magazine done, but it's so freaking expensive. So we're glad we were able to do this one, and for special occasions we'll do another, but for now it's online. So go online, latinheat.com, and subscribe.
And it is interesting. It's the women, and I ain't no fool. When I filmed my solo show Gaytino, who did I have? My two exec producers, Linda Mendoza and Linda Morel, my choreographer Leti Ibarra.
Oh, Leti!
All these strong, fantastic Chicanas. It was great. I love it.
Mm-hmm. I love some Latinas.
We love me some Latinas. Now let's talk about, because it's not, you're actually president CEO of Latin Heat Media, LLC, which is a whole thing. So it is Latin Heat publication. It's a talk show. Now you're a talk show host, right? Tell us about
Latin Heat Media is the print or the online publication. And we have Latin Heat Productions, which we produce talk shows, and we've been doing it since 2009. Our latest iteration is right now on MeTV, but because of the pandemic, we're doing it on IGTV. And then we have a streaming platform. It's called Latin Heat Cinema, where we have filmmakers. We distribute their films. They're short films, they're feature films, they're TV shows, and some small little short things, comedy sketches. But yeah, and we're just going to start promoting that and promoting all the content that we have there, because there's so many people, especially growing, being present throughout this whole time, and having a conference, we came in touch with a lot of independent filmmakers that had some really nice little films, some not so good, but some were really good. And they never got distribution, never. And it's like, what happened to those films? Because they were good. They're better than some of the stuff that you see, you know, online, or even the short films that you see, or up to par with some of the films you see at the film festivals. So I asked them, you know, do you want to get distribution? And they go, yes. And so we have some of those shows, and we're adding a whole new, we're adding the documentary of Gaiga Baldon, which was produced by Alfred Lugo. That's going to be on our Latin Heat Cinema. Right now, the website is getting refurbished, but you could still see what we have now, but it's going to have a whole new look. But we're going to have a comedy show, cooking with celebrities. And now these are retro shows because, again, we're talking about, they did this show back 15 years ago, but you have people like Diana Ortelli cooking her favorite recipe, and it's a comedy show, so it's really hilarious.
With Diana Ortelli.
Yeah, and so we have a lot of different shows that are going to be on, and we're going to be showing. And one of the things that we did recently was, because of the pandemic, you cannot have a screening. You know, you can't go to a theater and invite people and have a screening. So what a filmmaker, her name is Genevieve Anderson, she came to me and she did an immigration story, a feature film. And it was beautifully shot, and she wanted to have a screening, a virtual screening. So we did it on Latin Heat Cinema. We uploaded her film, and we had people tune in and stream it on Latin Heat Cinema. We had over 1,200 views.
Wow.
And then after that, she had her own Zoom Q&A. And so it was a virtual screening, which was great because anyone from around the world, if you wanted, could tune in. And so that's one of the things that we want to offer to filmmakers is right now you can't do a screening. And do you want to reach just LA, or do you want to reach national, and do you want to reach international? So we're offering that to any filmmaker that wants to have a screening, so that we have an outlet so that people see the content, because right now everybody's waiting. We're waiting for it to open so that we can show our film, so that we can show our TV.
That's not going to be as soon as we might like, not to diminish at all the horribleness of all this, but some good is coming out of it, because people are reinventing things, and how do we make this work, and how do this, Zoom ain't going to go away once venues open up. People are going to go, wait, why do I have to schlep all the way across town in LA traffic to do a pitch? I can do it right on Zoom. It's going to change everything, not just our industry. And then I don't know, look at what they're doing, all of the, I do a talk called Activism of the Arts, A Life Journey, and I'm having to rewrite it. I was supposed to do it at Fresno State. And I kept thinking, and then of course it went away along with quite a few film festivals. And I kept thinking, I could do that speech on Zoom to classrooms. And just as I thought that, 4 days ago, they called, and I'm going to Zoom it to faculty, staff, and students. Probably be a much larger audience than if I was just, I don't have to get in a plane. I don't have to schlep up there. I'll do it. But I'm rewriting it and doing research on how the arts are reinventing themselves right now. We can't do this, so how can we do that? And let's, Santa Fe Opera is doing this big free opera thing next week online. It's a whole new world.
Also, Culture Clash is doing a whole new show.
Right, the Old Globe. They were doing it at the Old Globe.
Yeah. So we're reinventing ourselves. Not that, and we're never really going to go back to how it was, but we're going to go back to some semblance. But we're also now that the virtual meetings and events, they're going to happen more and more. So that's where Latin Heat comes in too. Latin Heat Cinema is that we're there to offer screenings, to offer at where we can handle over 1,000 people to watch.
More than probably would see you at a film festival, really. Because you go to a film festival, there's 9 films all at 4:10, and you got to choose one, and people run around, and you could probably read more of them. I want to show a photo of you with Maria James from Trend Talk. Do we have that?
Maravilla James, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's our show. That's our our IGTV show and TV show.
And do you have guests and stuff? What is the
Oh
format?
yes. Oh, it's been wonderful because we've had like over 30 guests already. Anywhere from like Nicholas Gonzalez that you also had. We had recently a filmmaker, Mark Roberts, who is a Latino, and
Oh,
we
I love
didn't even
Mark. Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And
He's
he
the
just did a movie called Feliz Navidad with Mario
Marvel.
Lopez. We had Lisa Vidal from the show The Baker and the Beauty.
Right.
We had Carlos Gomez. We've had so many guests, and we have other guests coming up. But you know, it's a show where we take our time to talk to them and to find out what they're doing. And there's a lot of hidden gems within Hollywood because everyone looks at the stars, but a lot of people don't know of the producers, the behind the scenes, like producers. We also had what's his name, Peter Murrieta. You know Peter.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, we had Peter. We're interviewing Jorge Jarrin, who is Jaime Jarrin's son, the voice of the Dodgers in Spanish. Yeah. We've interviewed doctors, we've interviewed actresses, and so many different people. And you can find that on our Instagram at The Trend Talk Show.
But now, how did it change with what's going on, or did you start doing it after this had been going on? Meaning, were you, because I produced one of your talk shows at CBS a couple years ago. Yes. So did you at one point, were you together, and now are you Maravina separate at your own homes, and how are you doing it?
Well, we shoot in Glendale, at a studio in Glendale. We would shoot there in a studio with, you know, all these people around and the makeup artists and all this, and then it would get edited and then sent off to the TV station. Now what happens is Maravina is in her house, in her home. I'm in my home. We turn on Zoom and then we tape it. And once we tape it, then we do like a TV show. You know, you insert video, you insert pictures, you insert music. So it's a lot easier because we don't have to all go somewhere.
And cheaper.
And cheaper.
Yeah.
So much cheaper.
I know.
So now I'm looking to see, because the TV station, which is Me TV, that's where we air, they were waiting for us to give them the 4th season of the Trend Talk. And we were just about to shoot in March when this all happened. And so we had to quit, but they're still waiting for our new season. So we're talking about how would we do that if we still can't go back into the studio? How can we do it on Zoom? Because the quality is an issue there, because, you know, us doing it on Zoom nowadays, if it's a little blurry, well, we're very forgiving, because even Colbert and Jimmy Fallon and all this.
But not for long. But not
for long. Right. So, you know, we have to figure out how we make it the quality look better so that they can air it on TV. So, but it's still there. Our season is still there. They're waiting for right now we're doing reruns. We're doing reruns on Me TV in LA, Me TV in Texas, and we're in the Virgin Islands as well.
But Virgin Islands?
Yeah,
wow.
It's reruns.
Abelardo, do we have, are people writing in? Are there any questions for Bel?
Well, we have some great comments here, and I could read off a couple on Facebook.
Is anyone sending cash?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
And if they did, it'd come directly to me, and I'd pass it on.
Yeah, right.
Allison Sotomayor, Bel is a chingona and a Chicana with creativity, intelligence, and a kick-ass artist committed to nurturing Latina small business owners and fighting for increased representation and positive portrayals of Latinos. Our community is so grateful. I admire her so much.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Allison. My plant. No.
Tony Estrada.
in the mail.
Sure. Tony Estrada, great discussion. Will Latin Heat be giving voice to Latino Hollywood in the upcoming election?
How do they mean in the upcoming election?
Well, I guess the one that's coming up in November, will you be giving Latino Hollywood's
we would be giving the Latinos that are out there supporting and lobbying for their candidate. Yes, You know, like there's a little bit of Latino actors for the conservative side, and there's a lot more for the Democratic side. But yeah, that's a story that needs to be told as we get closer, because, you know, we all need to vote, and we all need to get out there. We need to make noise about that. Oh, definitely.
All right. Well, a lot of fans. Claudia Cardenas, éxitos. Saluditos desde North Hills, California. Marta Segura, saludos a Dan and Bel Hernandez. You've got some fans out there, Bel, that's for sure.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the Mexican American Educational Cultural Foundation.
Oh, okay. And before I do that, we also want to also do, because we couldn't do our event at La Plaza, the Latina Fest, which is about helping entrepreneurs. And really, we thought that it would be a good fit to do a festival like this, so that we could get more audience for our show. But when we started doing Latina Fest, we realized that there's this dynamic group of women entrepreneurs that is just like busting out. And so we've had some great success at the Outdoor Festival, which is an empowerment festival. It's a pop-up market. There's music, there's food, there's spirits, there's a lot of networking. And that's Latina Fest. We were going to do it this year. It's been pushed to March of next year, but we decided to do a virtual event, and it's called Entrepreneur Fest, and it'll highlight Latina entrepreneurs, and it will highlight like a spoken word artist. It will have a speaker on community relations between the African American and the Latino communities, and a surprise big guest. But for MESEF, which is the Mexican American Cultural Education Foundation, I actually met the founder, who is Dr. Jose Luis Ruiz, at last year's Latina Fest. And he also has a book, and we were doing book readings, and I was reading My 8 Ways. And he started talking to me about his organization, about, you know, how it's about presenting positive images of Mexican Americans, because Mexican Americans are the group of Latinos in the United States that gets more accosted by people, because, meaning also the president, calling us rapists and murderers and all. And because we happen to be the largest group of Latinos in the US, so it's about educating about the history of Mexican Americans, about the leadership that is Mexican American, that is doing wonderful things. And so every month he has a history maker event. And one of the first history makers that he had was Luis Valdez. He had Ambassador Julian Nava. It's a beautiful, beautiful event, because you learn about the history, you learn about the work that they did. And he does such a great job at interviewing the guests. We just had we're going to have Ana Valdez from the Latino Donor Collaborative, and I happen to be, he got me to consider, and I agreed to be on his advisory board. So basically, that's why I'm talking about the organization, because I happen to believe in the organization, and I happen to be on their advisory board, and I happen to love what it does. Next, like I said, we're going to have Ana from the Latino Donor Collaborative, and Nancy de los Santos is also going to be there as one of the, and Dan, you should be one of the history makers, because we have so much history. And like,
and we don't know our history, and our young people need to know our history. Never mind about the non-Latinos not knowing our history. Even our people don't know our history.
Exactly.
It's very important. Very important.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, the next one, the Mexican American History Maker, is on Tuesday, July 28th. We host it at En Casa con la Plaza, just as we host this great Dan Guerrero Happy Hour. And Dan, would you like to talk a little bit about the one that's coming up soon?
We have a very special one. Usually I do every other Friday at 7 p.m. But next Sunday, the 19th, we are celebrating a very special, well, that's the wrong date. It's not Friday, July 10th. This is the wrong one.
The wrong one. Well, that's my mistake, but you're right. It's on
Sunday. On Sunday the 19th, the beautiful Vikki Carr on that day will be celebrating her 80th birthday.
Wow.
And
What a legend she is.
legend, legend, legend. And, you know, people don't even realize. I remember back in the 60s when she started as Vikki. Carr was huge. She'd go on the Carson show. She'd say, no, my real name is Florencia La Gallegos. And she'd give her full, and I'm a Mexican-American. She always, always did. And then she had an equally successful career in Spanish. She's a legendary lady. And so that's her actual birthday. She doesn't really know what I have in store for her, but I will just say that there's lots and lots of surprises that she's going to love and you will love too. So it's Lamora Tarviada, 5 o'clock, Sunday the 19th, a very special birthday salute to Vikki Carr.
Well,
I
thank
will
you.
be there.
You
Definitely
better
a
be
big
there.
fan. I'm
Yeah,
a big fan of Vikki Carr. I did, you know, in my teen years, like one Latina that I know that is Latina, the singer, you know.
yeah.
So yeah, a lot of people didn't know because of the last name, but I'm glad that she went out there and told people who
She
she
would,
was.
her real name was Cardona, and she would say, no, my name is Florencia Cardona, and then 5 other names in between. So I always loved her for that. So she's a great lady. Yeah, we've worked together many times. She's a good egg. She's a good egg. And that's it. So please tune in. Bel, I love you. We all love you.
I
You,
love you
me,
to death.
and also don't forget Vikki Carr, special birthday salute Sunday the 19th at 5 o'clock Tarviada, right here in Zoomlandia. Thank you all, and here's to Grey Goose.
All right.
Here's
Let me
to
just,
everyone.
Bel.
Here's
Thank
to
you.
Casa.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much, Bel. This is a great show. You could catch it on Facebook. We have it archived. We also will be posting it on our YouTube at La Plaza LA, and also on our website, laplazala.org. This has been made possible by our sponsors, SoCal Gas, and a recent sponsor, California Humanities and the National Endowment for the Humanities, as part of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act of 2020. Upcoming sessions, you could find them on our website at lapca.org or laplazala.org. And that's it for tonight. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining in.
Thanks,
Thanks for your
guys.
comments.
Say hi to
Your questions.
Kiki. Say hi to Kiki.
I will. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. See you at Vicky's party.